Within Sabre ETO, we've developed this concept of a designer and a planner and the ability to do a bit of a workflow between the two so that we can look at the same information, we can see the same information, but at the same time, we're kind of restricting what the other person can do so that there's not too many hands in the cookie pot. So the goal of the video today is going to be the purpose of the two roles, what can a designer do, what can a planner do, and how do you associate those permission sets to your users. So the two roles, again, the idea was that you can set up an approval flow between the designer and the planner so that the design team can come up with the bill of material, they can indicate when they want those parts to be available for, they can indicate quantities, they can indicate the preferred vendor if they want to. But then what they do is they transfer that line to a planner who goes about dispositioning that line. So they can decide whether they want to take it from stock or inventory. So the idea is that the designer develops what is needed, but then they hand it off to a planner who can then do the procurement. So this restricts the functions within the two. So if the line has been transferred to a planner, the designer can't just go and change the quantity or change the item without indicating to the other department that they want to make the change. So they can either transfer the line back or they can ask the planning team to make the change for them on their behalf. On the other side of that, you've got the planners, so they won't be able to start purchasing or decide how they want to disposition that material until the designer has confirmed that line and transferred it to them. So it allows both the planning and the design team to be able to see the information, they know what's coming down the line, they can make decisions, they're interacting with the same pages, same information. However, it restricts the one from sort of messing up the other one. So the idea is the more information, the better. The planners can see what items they might need to be procuring in the future. The designers can see once they've transferred those lines, have I created a PO yet? Am I going to be taking this from stock? So again, same information, but more information. Let's start with the designers and what they can do. So they have the ability within the BOM planning lines to be able to add bill of material planning lines, so they can add text lines, GL lines, item lines, resource lines, comment lines, the same way that they can through the job planning lines today. They have the ability to transfer those lines to procurement. So once they've been transferred to procurement, obviously at that point then the purchasing team will start dispositioning that. They would no longer be able to continue to make changes unless that line was deselected as being plan ready. Designers have the ability to create shipments from a planning line, so they can create a packing slip, which the ability to create a packing slip from the BOM planning lines is also an additional Sabre ETO function. Last but not least, designers have the ability to recalculate the forecast amount. So that is part of the suite or the premium subscription. We will get more into the forecast and the forecast capability in other videos, but this is a function that a designer would have. So as we can see here, if you have the designer role, things like buy to job, things like relief from inventory, build to job, reset, those are things that are not available to them because they are not designed to be something that a designer can do. So this just talks a little bit to the restrictions that are put on a designer role. It talks a little bit about the workflow. And so any of the BOM planning lines that have been not marked as plan ready by the designer and who do not have the planner permission set cannot do these functions. So as always, what does that look like inside the application? So I have the user permission set that I am an ETO designer. I do not have the permission as an ETO planner. So if I go into my job, I will select a job here. I will go to any line that has a BOM task enabled, so you can look on the line. If it is a BOM task enabled line, that turns on the Sabre ETO functionality. If not, you would not have the extra fields and functionalities that we've built in. So under Manage, I am going to go into a BOM planning line. So on any of the lines that do not have a disposition status, so that means that they haven't been purchased, they haven't been taken from stock, they haven't been indicated that I'm going to relieve them from inventory, but they have a plan ready, unless I've got that planner permission set, you'll notice under Actions, Procurement, I do not have the ability to buy to job. I do not have the ability to relieve from inventory, to build to job. I can't reset the status line. So all of those functionalities are available if the line is set to being plan ready, but only if I have the ETO permission set that I have created for the designer. As well, if I do not have the ETO, if I just have the ETO designer permission set, then in any of the lines that are not marked yet as plan ready, anybody with the ETO planner permission set cannot update these lines. So they should not have the capability to be able to change the item number, change the quantity, change the date. They cannot update any of the lines that have been added there unless they have the ETO designer permission set. So now we have the planner role. So what can a planner do? So they have the ability to determine how we're going to meet the demand of the BOM planning line that was added by the designer. So they can decide that they want to create a purchase quote. They can create a purchase order and buy directly to the job. They can decide that they want to relieve it from inventory that they currently have on hand in that location. So they can even buy to job. So they have the ability, once that line has been transferred to them using the plan ready Boolean on the BOM planning line, they can then decide how they want to disposition it. So at this point, anybody with the designer permission that is not a planner as well should not be able to make changes to the item that's on the line. They shouldn't be able to change the quantity on the line. It's basically been transferred to the planner. So the idea behind that is that there has to be that communication if something on that line needs to change. Planners cannot use the BOM import function, so they won't have the ability to be able to use that Excel upload functionality and add additional planning lines. They can use the update forecast line function if they've gotten the premium or the suite Sabre subscription for that. So again, we'll talk more about the forecast and that functionality in additional videos. And they can create packing slips if needed. So if they want to be able to ship inventory that they have on hand, or they want to be able to ship that BOM planning line, they would have the ability to do so. So again, within the application, I'm on the same job that I was on previously. The only difference here is that I updated the user permission set and I took away the ETO designer and I added the ETO planner. So you will notice on any of the lines here that are marked as plan ready, if I go under actions, procurement, you'll now see that I've got the ability to do my buy to job, my relieve from inventory. All of these functionalities are available for me. And in additional videos, we're going to explore a little bit further how you would actually do those functions. And then over here under functions, you'll notice that things like BOM import and insert assembly BOM are no longer available because, again, we've taken away that ETO designer permission set and we've just added ourselves as an ETO planner. So these are functionalities that are only available if we have those set as an ETO designer. So we've talked a little bit about the fact that you need to have these unique permission sets, that you need to set them up. So in this section, we're going to talk about where you would do that. So the ETO designer and the ETO planner permission sets are something that your company would create once you've installed Sabre ETO. So they're not out-of-the-box permission sets that we have. You could use out-of-the-box permission sets, that would be fine, but we do typically recommend that you create permission sets that are unique and very obvious. Your company would then associate those permission sets in the job setup. Your company would associate those permission sets to the user card so that I could indicate the individual people and what permission sets that they should have. And users can be both a designer and a planner. So you may have certain people within your organization where they are going to add bill of material lines, they need the BOM import functionality, but they also have the ability to go and create the purchase orders themselves or decide that they want to relieve from inventory that they currently have themselves. So do not worry if you have certain people that are going to need both. Sabre ETO is fully able to support that. So again, what does that mean in our application? So here we'll just close out of the job that we were in. So first things first, you would go to permission sets. So what I did here was I clicked on new and I created ETO planner. I already have one, so I'm just going to put a little 1 on the end here. So realistically, we don't have to go further than that. We don't have to go in, we don't have to add tables or code units or reports or anything to it. We just need the permission set created so that we can associate that in our job setup. So I've created one called ETO Planner. You would repeat this function to create another one called ETO Designer. Again, whatever you call the permission sets are your own. You don't have to use this specific ETO Planner or ETO Designer, but the idea is that you are creating something that's unique that we can associate in our job setup. So second step is going to be going into the job setup, as I mentioned. So we're going to scroll down to our Sabre ETO Fast tab. So here we have indicated what's the permission set that we would associate to users if we want to identify them as a planner. So again, I've associated that new permission set I just created in the previous step. Same thing goes here for our designer. So again, I had created a unique permission set, and here I have associated that so that I can associate that to specific user cards. So your third step that can be done, and this can also be done during your wizard steps if you go through the wizard, is you can associate these permission sets to individual users. So we're going to go into our users. I would select the specific user that I want to associate. So in this case, I have associated this person as being an ETO planner. So this is someone who has the ability to find a job, relieve from inventory, create an RFQ, but they do not have the ability to use the BOM import and the insert assembly functions. Then I can go to another user, and down below I can indicate the permission set that's needed for them. So in this case, I can go down to the bottom here, and maybe here I call them an ETO designer. I can associate different companies, that's all standard. So now I've indicated Jen as being a planner, Julie as being a designer, and if I wanted to, I could come into another user who has more functionality, and they could be both an ETO planner and an ETO designer. Any questions, just contact us using the contact information here. We'd be happy to help.